So we've just learned a couple of tags, and there's not that many tags to learn. Tags, elements, whatever you want to call them. There's like 110, 112, something like that. And this video, what we're going to take a look at is we're going to look at all of the tags in HTML, and I'll also show you all of the attributes. And more importantly, I'm going to show you where you go for documentation. So whenever you are programming, you want to have a source for documentation, and that source needs to be accurate and reliable because you don't want to be acting upon misinformation. And there could be a lot of misinformation on the internet. So I'm going to show you, and I already have shown you, but we're just going to make this explicitly clear. I'm going to show you the definitive resource for web documentation. Like, this is where you go to get the accurate information. It's as good as it gets. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about file naming conventions, and then I'm going to talk to you about folder structure. So these are just some of the daily aspects of creating web pages that you need to have. These are just like, okay, how do I structure my folders? What folders do I use? How do I name my files? Where do I go for documentation? That is what we're learning in this video. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you where I'm at because you're getting a tour of my life. So I'll tell you what area of my life this room is in. All right, cool. All right, so the first thing is reference documentation. And anytime you need documentation, go to MDN, Mozilla Developer Network. That's the definitive source. Here it is. That's where you want to go. All right. And then here's a list of all of the HTML elements. Like in the world, this is it. 100 to 10. You could wrap your mind around that. It might take a couple of months or a year, but you're going to get it. Now the list is over here on the left, and it goes all the way down. And you'll notice there's little icons next to the list. So we have garbage cans, right? So we'll take a look at what a garbage can means. And a garbage can means, I'm scrolling all over. Obsolete. This feature is obsolete. So they just include that in there for legacy purposes. Like if you've inherited a code base and there's like an applet, you're like, what's an applet tag? You could go look it up. So that's obsolete if you see a trash can. Here's a thumbs down, right? Thumbs down. And you could pretty much infer what that means. We don't like it. So this has been deprecated. Don't use it. And then there's a little like scientist's flask or whatever they call those things, right? And what does that one mean? That one means experimental. So it's not stabilized. Maybe you don't want to use it. How can you tell if you want to use it? You could go to, oh man, you got to know this. This is another really great resource for documentation. You can go to can I use, and you're going to look up dialog. Right? And here's the dialog element. I'm calling them tags. Everybody else is calling them elements. Tags, elements, tomato, tomato. All right, the dialog element. 47.56% of browsers support this. So if you build with this, half of the browsers are going to fail, right? Half the browsers will fail. And you can see the red ones will all fail. The green ones, Chrome is like always green. Chrome is like, let's do it, let's get it done. Internet Explorer, other ones often red when you have experimental stuff. All right, so these are the browsers, green that you could use it with. Red would be no, but this is where you come to check it out. And I'm going to copy that, can I use, and put it here. Oh, this is also great. There we go, can I use. Sweet. All right, so that's a little flask. And then there's another one that's this exclamation point, like road construction ahead or something. And it says non-standard and is not on standards track. Don't use it. Extreme caution. All right, so that's the tags. And we'll maybe come back and just scroll through this document here because I've highlighted some more stuff, and I'll just show you what stands out at the end of the video, and then I'll tell you where I'm at, what corner of my life this room exists in. You can also look up all of the attributes. And so just give you a quick heads up on this page. But it shows you like the attribute. And then it says, okay, access key, that can be used on any tag, any element, right? Access key can be used on any tag or any element. And like, so we were looking at link, right? So link had in it, we saw in this last video just to refresh your memory, link had href. And anchor had href. So let's go look up the href attribute. Href, and here we have link and we have anchor. So link and anchor tags use this attribute. So sometimes kind of interesting. It tells you what the attribute does. All right, so that's that one. And web platform, you could explore that on your own. So let's talk about file naming conventions. You never, ever, ever, never put spaces in your file names. Never. So use underscores, use dashes. That's totally cool. And you also, what else? What else do you also? You also, so never any spaces. Use file underscore and dashes instead. And you also always want to use lowercase. All right, just stick with that. Like, yes, you can make an exception, but some servers are case sensitive, and you just don't want to have to deal with that. So just always make it lowercase. That's the best solution. So HTML extension, is you could, what you use for the files. Index.html is the default for the main, file in your website. And dashes, underscores, never spaces, lowercase. And you could read the rest of these details, and this is where it came from right there. I just saw that article. I thought that's pretty good. And then the last thing is your folder structure. And so your folder structure, what do you name your folders? And so these are the ones I use. But if you click on this article, it'll take you in. CSS Tricks is also fantastic. So any information from there is also really good. It's more of a blog or tutorial type of website. But if you go to this one right here, it'll show you like the folder structure different developers use. And so you can see, oh, this is what different people use. This is what I use. CSS for my style sheets, JavaScript, images, and pictures, right? So images would just be like images for decorating the website or something like that. All right, so that's the beginning of that stuff. Let's take a quick scroll through this. And basic elements. So HTML, like the root element, document metadata gives you information about the page. That would be like these right here. And we've seen head and style and title. And then content sectioning. This is kind of cool. This is how you put content into different sections. Like, oh, here's my header area. Here's my footer area of the page. Here's my main body. Inside here, I'm going to have different articles and a couple of different sections and an aside, right? So you want to structure your document like that. And so this talks about article, footer, header, the heading tags, navigation. Oh, here's where my navigation is, right? So that'd be navigation, and here's a section. And then text content, interestingly, right, they don't use the div in the content sectioning. So div traditionally is like, people have gone nuts with div. And so in HTML5, they introduced a lot of these new elements like article, footer, header, section, navigation, right? So that kind of stuff. And so div here is for text content. And I just want to take a moment to reflect on it, right? So it's a generic container for flow content, which does not inherently represent anything. It can be used to group elements for styling purposes, right? So if you don't know what else to use, you could use a div, but try to avoid using divs because it doesn't convey any semantic meaning, right? There's no it doesn't say, oh, this is the navigation area. This is the header area. Those convey meaning. That tag conveys meaning. It's the header area. Div is like, I don't know where it is. You telling me it's in a div. I don't know where that is on your page. You telling me it's in your document's header. Oh, I know where that is on the page, right? That's semantic meaning. Hopefully you just have like an aha moment. All right. HR is a horizontal rule. Yeah, that's what it stands for. And horizontal rule is not something you want to use. So I put that in red because you should do that with CSS because that's putting a line on your page or starting to style your page. LI, ordered list, paragraph. Pre is kind of cool, like if you want text to come out formatted exactly as you enter it, right? Pre will do that, and it puts it in usually non-proportional font exactly as it's laid out in the file, right? So it looks kind of like computer code. So that's kind of a cool one. Inline semantics. Just scroll through the rest of these. That's it, as far as I got. All right, so that's just like some of the stuff on this page. So you learned some good things in this video. The main one is documentation and where do you go to look things up. What is your definitive source for a reference? And that is going to be Mozilla Developer Network, webplatform.org, and then caniuse.com is also super useful to see what kind of support do you have from the different browsers for this thing you're wanting to use. And then file naming conventions, no spaces, use underscores and dashes if you need to separate things, and keep it all lowercase. And then the folder structure, you have a resource for comparing how different developers structure their folders, and you saw how I did it too. Now for this room, So this is my dad's office. And my parents are out of town, and so they live near us. And I came over here because I no longer have to be in the pantry. I can make noise over here. It's just around the corner from my house. My family's still asleep early in the morning. Got up, came over. And this is my dad's office. And he was a professor of sociology at Fresno State. And so he got his doctorate in sociology. It's kind of a cool life story. You could stop the video at any time, right? But he started out in Canada. And I was going to tell you something else, but I'll tell you that in a second. And he grew up like on a farm. My grandpa had homestead, or like way back in our family's generation, was homesteaded, and they farmed, and there was like no running water, no electricity, no indoor plumbing, no gas, and it's like this is like north of Winnipeg, and that's like north of North Dakota. And it's like as cold as it gets in winter, you know. And so they just grew up like hard, bare to the bones, knuckles against dirt and gravel and rocks, farming. And so my dad was like, I need a better life. And he tried to go to college, but they wouldn't let him in Canada. He failed the math exam and he couldn't pass it. And so they said, you can't go to college. And so he said, all right, I'll try in America. And he came over to America and he did get in here because they didn't have a math entry exam. And so he just kept going to school because he didn't like working in the bank. He tried working in a bank and he didn't like that. And then eventually, after like 6 or 8 years or 8 years, or I don't know, they gave him a doctorate because he just stayed in school so long. So then he became a professor. He liked sociology, became a professor of sociology. Kind of funny. And he taught deviant sociology, which is like why are people deviant, and negative deviance and positive deviance, which is like positive deviance would be like I'm going to do what isn't the norm, but it's a positive outcome. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, right? Positive deviance. They deviated from the norm and for the good of all. And so, and negative deviance, right? Like whatever, you're a punk rocker or something, right? You're outside the norm. But so because he taught deviance, I called him Dr. Deviance. So that's my nickname for my dad. All right, it's my dad's office, all of his books, that kind of a deal. And in the next video, we're going to keep learning some awesome web stuff.